आइए हम सुने विज्ञान की अनकही कहानियाँ। आइए हम सुने विज्ञान की अनसुनी कहानियाँ।
Hello, listeners. You're listening to Vigyan Ki Awaaz podcast program on STEM popularization, catalyzed and supported by the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India, through its National Council for Science and Technology Communication and Media for Community Foundation. Project devised and designed by Dr. R. Sridhar and assisted by Ashish Tiwari. Local coordination and production, Professor Subramanian. Content writing by Professor Mansa Gowda and post-production by Professor Kaushik P. Kanchan of Garden City University, Bengaluru.
Garden City University, conquer we shall all adversity. GCU, emphasis on life. GCU, emphasis on life.
Today, we are honored to have with us an esteemed researcher in the field of chronobiology, Professor SHEEBA VASU. Professor SHEEBA VASU, a leading scientist at JNCASR, Bengaluru, specializes in biological clocks and circadian rhythms. Dr. SHEEBA started off by giving us an introduction about her research on genetics to help our listeners to understand better.
Okay, so my name is SHEEBA VASU. I am a professor at the Neurosciences unit, and my specialization is the study of biological rhythms or biological clocks. So these are entities which are present in all organisms, humans to bacteria. All of us have a way of knowing the time not only across years but across the day, that it's morning, it's evening. Not only like how you think, okay, what time is it, morning, breakfast time. Not only that, but also your liver knows when to secrete certain juices, or your stomach knows when it should make all these enzymes to digest, and your brain knows when it's time to get yourself to relax and go to sleep. So there are entities inside our body. These are known as biological clocks, and I study them. I use not humans. I'm interested in how things happen in humans, but the model system that we use are called as fruit flies or Drosophila. A very popular model for doing genetic studies as well as behavioral studies, because it's a very simple organism and you can do a lot of genetic manipulations with it.
She also explained how childhood trauma or some element of transfer happens from maternal information other than genetic transfer.
So, for the longest time, I think as long as humans have been thinking about themselves, they may have noticed that some things are there which are passed on from their parents and grandparents. For example, you may commonly see in your family somebody will say, oh, she has her father's eyes, or she has the same temper as the grandfather, or oh, this one is very artistic just like her aunt, right? So we've all noticed it, and humans have noticed this for a long time, that some things are being passed. Then at the same time you may also notice that, oh my god, your mother used to be very good at this, why are you so bad at this? So there are both things, right? We have noticed that some things seem to go from generation to the other, and sometimes it skips one generation and comes in the next generation, while some others don't. So there is variation, and people have always tried to understand what is this about, what is this mystery, why some things pass and some things don't, how do they pass? This whole question of how it passes and why it passes is this idea of genetics. Then comes the details. DNA is a very, very recent information that DNA is the place where this information is passed. Now we know that's not entirely true also. There are many ways by which it passes, and the mechanisms by which it passes, why it doesn't pass 100% similar, why there's variation, that is the study of genetics. And many aspects are there on this study. Now, why do I study using Drosophila? Because Drosophila, as you know, it's a very short lifespan. We take a long time to become an adult and pass on our genes to next generation. In flies, that can happen in 11 days. In some other organisms like C. elegans or in bacteria, it happens much faster. So when people want to conduct certain kinds of study, they use those kind of animals, whatever suits them, to do these kind of experiments where you want to see how things change across generations. Now, why did I use this fruit fly, this model? Because I can make many changes in the genes, in the genetic structure, which is making up this information which passed from one generation to next. If you want to tweak it, will you do it in yourself? No human is going to allow that. Of course, humans would like to do that, when it comes to diseases. For example, if there is a parent, there is a kind of disorder or disease which is getting passed on from one generation to another, and unfortunately it turns out that you are carrying it, you have to think very carefully. What about me getting married? What about me having children? What are the chances my child will have it? Can I prevent it? That becomes very, very important decisions that people have to take, sometimes very heart-breaking decisions also. In those conditions, it's very important if humans can develop a tool by which they can alter their genetics very early on, such that they can still continue to have a healthy child.
Dr. SHEEBA then went on to give us a better understanding about the model she's using and why she chose the particular model.
So maybe I'm not the best person to answer that question of childhood trauma passing from generation to generation. But I won't be surprised if some element of transfer happens, because it's not only information that is coded in your genes, but also some information that is passed down from your mother, maternal information that is not necessarily coded in the genes. Some amount of transfer is taking place. Whether childhood trauma passes on in that sense, I don't know for sure.
Dr. SHEEBA gave us more insight on how lab researches are not always done for results, but for various other purposes, and what is her research's contribution in our society.
So sure, the Drosophila melanogaster is this fruit fly. If you have fruits in your house or bananas especially, you'll see these guys buzzing around. So Drosophila melanogaster might be one of those. The fruit fly is also, the bee is also an insect. But we don't do too many genetics on it because it's much more difficult to work with. We don't have the tools as much as this fly. That's why. Of course, it stings. That's another matter. The third matter is that it's not easy to rear and work with individual bees. Bees will only work in a colony. Okay. If you take individuals and try to do experiments with, very soon they die. They need that. They're very, very much dependent on the colony. But now I will take you from that genetics approach to the studies itself, because my studies, of course I'm interested in the genetics, but my studies are more about the clock, about how there are internal mechanisms which tells us what is the time of day and what time to do what. And these clocks regulate not just our sleep wake. Sleep wake, you may be very familiar. Whenever I say clocks, you may be thinking about how we fall asleep at the same time each day. But in addition to regulating sleep, these clocks also regulate almost every other body function. Like I was talking about our digestive system, our immune system, the system which helps us to fight against infections. Also muscular activity, alertness, all of these things are controlled by our clocks.
You were listening to Vigyan Ki Awaaz, a podcast on STEM popularization, catalyzed and supported by National Council for Science and Technology Communication, Government of India. Tune in for more such episodes to Vigyan Ki Awaaz on this platform and also through Spotify, YouTube and Apple Music platforms.
आइए हम सुने विज्ञान की